Hi, I'm George Pearson, and this time around we'll be doing this Happy Halloween card here inside of Photoshop Elements. Now if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button and of course click on share. Don't forget to subscribe. I do several videos every single week, mostly on Photoshop Elements, but I'll also do Photoshop and Minecraft and sometimes CorelDRAW as well. If you want to learn a lot more about how to use Photoshop Elements, really the best way to learn the program is with my training course, and there's a link for that right down there in the description. Okay, let's get to it. This project uses 3 photographs. First off, this skyline right here, then a picture of the moon, there it is, and then finally this jack-o'-lantern photograph. Now I have all of these as a download, and you'll find the download link in the description. We also use a special typeface. Let's switch over to a browser window and I'll show you where you can download that typeface. And again, there's a link for the download also on my support page for this video. There we are. The font is named Kaiju Monster, and as you can see over here, it's 100% free. You want to use this download button right there. That's one you want to use. And then simply download this onto your computer. This will come down as a zip file. You'll need to unzip that typeface on your computer and then install that. Now this has to be done before you launch Photoshop Elements for it to show up inside of the list of typefaces inside of the program. So you have to install your typeface first and then open up Photoshop Elements. Now if you don't know about how to install a font, just go over here to the home page for dafont.com, and they have a little bit of information right down here on how to do that. It's actually very, very easy. There's even a help section up here giving you more help on how to install the fonts. Okay, once that's done, we can then go back over to Photoshop Elements. Let's double check, make sure they have the font installed. Just grab the text tool over here, horizontal type tool. Come down here where you see a font listed, click on that. This is your whole big long list, and go through and take a look for that one right there. If you see that, you're all set. Now if you have real small samples on the right hand side, let me show you where you can fix that as well. Make sure you're not on the type tool, that's important. Any other tool is fine, but the type tool will not let you access the properties for whatever odd reason. So just go to the Move tool, go up to Edit, come down to Preferences right here, and then you can change the properties for your type right down there. And all we need to do here is down here it says Font Preview Size. Just change that to huge. That gives you the biggest preview, and this is the easiest way to see what the font looks like inside of your preview window. So once that's done, just choose OK, and you're all set to go. Alright, now let's go ahead and work on creating our file. Now we don't need to have this picture yet. I'm just going to minimize that one by using this picture, and we'll also be using this picture. Now if you don't have floating windows like this, you can also set this up in the Preferences, and that's Edit. Come down to Preferences right here, go to General, and that checkbox right there, make sure that one is checked where it says Allow Floating Documents in Expert Mode. By default that's not checked, so just make sure that one is checked, choose OK, and you can then do floating windows. You also of course can dock those like that, or grab the tab and then float that. Now for the moon we can go ahead and dock the moon, but it's useful to have this picture here floating, so we can then just grab the background layer here and drag it over onto the moon picture, and it copies that in as a new layer. Then just get rid of that. Okay, now this is too big to fit on the moon properly, so let's first change the opacity here down to about halfway. I'll just type in 50%. That way you can see both the moon and the face in there. Just pull it down just a little bit and you'll see the borders in there. Grab a corner and then just pull that down, and that resizes it. And you can grab anywhere in here just to position it. And we want it about that big. So if I put it at the very, very bottom, right down here, see the eyes are right about the middle of the moon, like that. Just put it kind of off to the right hand lower side here. That makes it look like it's looking down towards the right. It's just kind of over here someplace. The actual size and position isn't really critical, but about like that. And then choose OK. And then set your opacity back up to 100. Now if we zoom in on this, you see that there are a few little problems up around here. Let's just clean that stuff out real fast. I'm just going to have the paintbrush in here. That's an okay size. That's 40 pixels. and black, and then just paint right on top of that line right there. Just kind of get rid of that line. I think that's the only problem we really have in here is that one line. Yep, that's fine. Okay, let's go ahead and set this back to fit screen. It's already positioned correctly. It looks kind of strange here, but it is positioned correctly. Now we want to select out just the light parts and hide all the black stuff. And we'll do that with a layer mask. So go over to the button over here, your magic wand button. Make sure you're on the magic wand itself right down here. Set the tolerance up. Always, I'm going to set mine at 70. And then click someplace in the blacks over in here where the cheeks are. Maybe that's a good spot right there. So select that, and there we go. It makes your selection. Now we've selected the black and not the eyes. So let's invert this selection. Go up to select and inverse. So now just the light parts are selected and everything else is not selected. Now I want just a little bit more space around these. They're in just a little bit too tight. Let's pull it out just a touch. You can do that up here under select again and come down to modify and expand. And let's just set this at 2 pixels and choose OK. Makes it just a little bit larger and catches just a little bit of the black around the edge. That just helps the look. Okay, now that that's done, we have our selection made. All you have to do is hit that button right there. That's your layer mask button. Makes a layer mask, and there we go. So that's now sitting nicely on the moon. You can kind of adjust your position a bit, and I think it's pretty good. Click off, and it should look okay. Now, see this black line up here? That's because the layer mask right now is only going as far as the image is. So go over here to the right side. If you're seeing your blue line around the left side, just double click on the right side. This is your layer mask. What you want to do is you want to fill the outside, the white area there with black. So make sure your foreground color is black. Grab your paint bucket and click out here someplace. That should fill the whole thing with black, and it also hides that line. So that's now taken care of. Okay, now we want to make the moon more orange. So come down to the background layer. That's our moon layer. And we'll put an adjustment layer here above this. Go up to Layer, come down to New Adjustment Layer, and Photo Filter right there. Normally I'll say to check that checkbox. In this case it doesn't matter one way or the other because it's the only layer underneath that anyway. Now your standard filter here, the top filter would be the warming filter 85. That's also the one that we want to use. That's fine. But you want to have the density way up. I have mine set at 90%. And as you can see, that goes real orange when you do that. There's a little eye right down here. You click on that, you can see it before and after, so you can kind of compare that. So that's a nice orange. Kind of helps to blend in the orange for the face. Okay, so far so good. That all looks fine. Now go up here to the top layer and then hold down a special keyboard shortcut. That's the Control-Shift-Alt keys, and then tap the E key. And what that does is it merges all these layers together onto a new layer right up there. Okay, the moon part now is finished. Let's just grab our tab and float this like that. We now need to have our city picture back, and that should be sitting in the photo bin. There it is. There's our city picture. We can dock that one. And then take this layer here, our top layer, the submerged layer, and just drag it over onto the city right there. And then we're done with this. Let's just go ahead and minimize that. If you want to, you can save this file as a Photoshop file, PSD file. If you want to be able to go back later and make adjustments or changes, you can then redo that. But I'll just minimize that. And the size is already good over here. So all we need to do is we need to hide the black background. And again, we'll do that with the magic wand. There we go. This time bring your tolerance down quite a ways. I'm going to bring it down to 30. I don't want it to grab quite as much stuff. And just click out in the black somewhere, and that should select your black and a little bit of the darkness up in there, and that's just fine. Now again, we've selected this, and we want to have the moon selected instead, so we need to invert this selection. Go up to Select, come down to Inverse, and now just the moon is selected. And then go up here and again hit that Layer Mask button, and that hides everything except for just the moon. And then put it somewhere over here, kind of like that. You can see there's the those two peaks just right over here someplace. We'll adjust a little bit more later on, but there's the basic position for the moon. Now we need to have the city buildings here in front of the moon, so the moon's in the background. And to do that, we'll be making a copy of the background layer. We'll actually do two copies. We'll use one copy for that cutout, and we'll use one copy to make the sky more dramatic. So let's make two copies of your background layer. Right click and choose duplicate layer. Choose OK. Right click again on that and duplicate layer and choose OK again. You have two copies. We can now hide this first copy. Let's go up to this second copy and let's hide that moon for a minute. There we are. So we're on this copy here at the top of our images. Now you want to grab another selection tool. This time come down and grab the quick selection tool right here. I have mine set at 20 pixels right there. That's a pretty good size for this. And then just come in and begin selecting into the buildings. And take it clear around to the buildings like that and clear over to this side. If you get too much, we'll fix that in just a bit. Let's go through and try to grab the buildings. There's a bit too much up there. We'll fix that. We'll come back to that. And just drag it around until you get your buildings all selected. Don't worry about the antennas, things like that. That doesn't matter. Just get the buildings and then come into the bottom area in here and select all of this. I'm holding down the mouse button this whole time to have my selection. Okay, now I missed a little bit right in here and we need to get rid of that. Let's take care of this part here first. Make sure you're on subtract right over here. If you're over here, just click on subtract. And then come in and get that little bit right in there. There we go. That's fine. Now change this over to add. And I'll just grab this middle part that I missed. Just kind of scrub around here and make sure you get the whole thing. There we go. Sometimes it's a little bit picky with this. And there it is. That's good. And then just look through, see if you see anything else, any of these little marching ants, any place in the middle. If you see that, then go ahead and grab that as well. Doesn't matter down there, that little bit. We can just ignore that. Okay, now that we have our selection, oh, actually I see a little bit of stuff right in there. I'm going to go ahead and fix those. I'm still on the add. I'm just going to grab those. There we go. Perfect. Now that that's done, let's make this into a layer mask. Now we have the buildings selected, so a layer mask will show us just the buildings. So here's our layer mask. Now you won't see anything yet because we have our background still showing. I'm going to hide the background and you should see that. Okay, that's good. Now let's show the layer in behind. That's this layer, and show the background layer. That's fine. Hopefully you're on this layer mask layer. If not, just double click over here. Now hold the Alt key down and pull that straight down onto our second background layer. This will be for the sky. Now in the sky, we need to invert the layer mask. So make sure that the light blue outline is around there. If it's not, just double click on that. Go up to Filter, come down to Adjustments and Invert, and it reverses those colors. So now if I hide this and hide that top one, we're only seeing the sky in here on that layer. Okay, so far so good. We're all set to go. Now, let's make sure that we are back on the Move tool, and then grab the top of your city layers and pull it above your moon layer. There we are, and then show the moon again. And the moon should now be coming in behind that layer. All we're really using from this layer is just this little bit right in here, but that allows us to put the moon in behind. If you want to move the moon around, just come down to the moon layer, and then you can reposition the moon a little bit like that. I'm going to leave it right about there. It looks pretty good. Okay, now that's taken care of. Our foreground layer is taken care of. That's the buildings. Let's now come in and make the sky more dramatic. And we'll do that by changing the blending mode for this sky layer right here. So go up to the blend modes right here, and we want to change the blend mode on this one to linear light, and that's way down there. Just choose that one, and it makes the sky much more dramatic. Everything else has been masked out, so the buildings look just fine. We now have a real bright, very dramatic, kind of a cartoonish sky happening in there. Okay, all we have left to do then is put in our text. That's going to be on the top, so go up here to your top layer. Let's go over here to the Type tool. You should have foreground color right here as black, and you'll be seeing your black right down there as well. I have mine set at 60 points. That's just fine. Make sure that you're using the correct typeface, that's selected. That's our monster text right there. Now I want to use an orange in here and not this black color. I want to use the orange that's right in there in the mouth. So to get that, let's go over here to our foreground color. Click on the foreground color swatch. That gives you a little eyedropper. You can then click inside the mouth in here. Choose OK. And that should change your color for your text down here as well. There it is, nice orange. Okay, come down here someplace. Doesn't matter exactly where. We'll move this if needed. Click in here and then just type in Happy Halloween. And choose OK. So there we go. There's our Happy Halloween. Now it's not quite the right size. I want it larger than this. So for that, if you grab the corner, you can see there's a corner right here. And there's a corner right there. I'm going to grab that corner. I'm going to pull this up. Let me get that corner exactly. There it is. You can change the size of the type just by pulling on the corner. And I think somewhere around in here looks pretty good. You can play around with that and make it whatever size you want. You don't have to use this typeface even. Whatever you like. We'll just go ahead though and do it with this for this video. Click on the green check mark. There's our basic text on the page. Now you can move the type around if you click on one of the letters. If you click in the space over here, it depends, but it usually should grab that as well. And I normally just go for the type like that so I can see what I'm doing. And put it right over here someplace. That's nice. Now, make a duplicate of this text layer. Go up here, right click on the name, and choose Duplicate Layer, and OK. We'll be now putting in some kind of streaky things in here on this copy up here. You'll see how we're doing the copy in just a bit. First off, let's change our foreground background colors back to their default. That's a little button right there. That's black in front and white in the background. Make a new layer. There's your new layer. Go up to Filter, come down to Render and Fibers. And you should get something that looks kind of like that. Now you can adjust your variance. So the more variance you have, the more contrast it is. Somewhere around in here is pretty good. I have mine at about 26, 27 in here somewhere, the mid-20s. And the strength is how strong this is. I have mine at 37, but there's real low. It's kind of soft and fuzzy. And go all the way up here, it gets this a little more contrasty. Again, I have mine about 37. I'll just type that in. Now this is a little bit random in here. So even if you match my numbers exactly, it's not going to look exactly the same as this. It kind of randomizes that just a bit. So it should look about like this though, and that's fine. Then choose OK. And that should fill the whole layer like that with these vertical streaky things. We now want to have this inside of our lettering, and we'll do that by right-clicking where it says Layer 2, right-click here, and then choose Create Clipping Mask. What that does is it puts that inside of the layer underneath. The layer underneath, of course, happens to be our letters. That's why we made that duplicate. And there we go. There's those streaky things inside of that. Now, we need to blend this layer into our orange layer underneath. So we need to change the blend mode for that. Come down to the top type layer right here, and then change the blend mode all the way down here to Vivid Light. And that gives you this kind of a thing. We have kind of an orangey look now, and our orange letters have become more of a yellow look. Let's now shift the color of our letters over to an interesting green effect. And we'll do that with a hue saturation layer, allowing you to change the colors a lot of different ways. So let's come down here to our bottom text layer. This is where your color is coming from. Let's put a new adjustment layer on top of that. Go up to Layer, come down to New Adjustment Layer, and Hue Saturation. This time where it says Use Previous Layer to create clipping mask, you do want that checked this time. Choose OK. And here we go. Now down here it says Colorize, click on that. And that just adds color into it. You can now change the color. There we go. Any way you want like that. We'll be using kind of a green color in here. You can make more saturation or less saturation. That's more color or less color. Notice I was doing the color that's kind of in behind on that. And you can adjust the lightness as well. Now the numbers that I used here, for the hue I used 128. I got that exactly right. On the saturation I did 41. There we go. And on the lightness I put that at 16. And that should match what I have exactly right there. So colorize, hue at 128, saturation at 41, and lightness at 16. So there's the before and there's the after with our color shift. Now all we have left to do is to add a drop shadow in here to help separate the text out from the background, make it easier to read. So come down to the text layer right here, our bottom text layer. Go up to Layer, come down to Layer Style, Style Settings. And you want to be adding a drop shadow right there. Click on Drop Shadow. Let's now change the lighting angle to 127, so it's kind of pointing up that way. Kind of the same direction as we have here from the text up to the moon. Same angle. On the size, let's just make a small adjustment on your size. Set this to 6. The size is how sharp the edges of the shadow is. This is just a touch of softening. You need much more distance in here, so change the distance to 32. That brings it way out. You can kind of see it in the background there. And then put the opacity all the way to the top at 100. And there we go. There is that nice drop shadow for your lettering. Choose OK. And that's it. We've now done our nice, kind of fun, happy Halloween card here with the moon in its pumpkin disguise. And we covered a lot of stuff here in this video, a lot of different techniques, but we really just scratched the surface on what Photoshop Elements can do. If you really want to learn everything that this program can do, then take a look at my complete training course, and there's a link for that, of course, right down there in the description. Also, don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Hit that share button as well, let other people know. Don't forget to subscribe as well so that you won't miss any videos in the future.